The nostalgic experience of classic arcade games and modern emulation is brought to life on a budget with the Raspberry Pi number 4. Where new Raspberry Pi is coming to the market, the other ones are still for sale here and there, and they are getting cheaper and cheaper. But that doesn't mean that the older ones are bad. In the contrary, these older models are capable of running a lot of stuff. So that makes it, in my opinion, really interesting to just do a little bit of a step back into the past and just check out the older Pi models that you can really benefit on a budget for. So it's an affordable way to actually play thousands of different retro games. In this video we're going to be checking out step by step what is going on with the Raspberry Pi, where can you actually find it, and most important, what can we do with it. Of course we will have some limitations because the newer models are more powerful, we have overall better compatibility with emulators, but still I was surprised to see what you can do, because the Raspberry Pi have been used in many different devices I've been seeing through over the years when reviewing products. So that's also another thing I wanted to check out. The Raspberry Pi 4 features a quad-core ARM Cortex-A72 processor running at 1.5 GHz. Paired up with some 8GB RAM, I must say there are different models out there. The powerful combination it allows to handle classic arcade games, emulation with ease, delivering smooth performance for titles from systems like MAME, Neo Geo and much more. Its GPU also supports OpenGL ES 3.0, enhanced graphical performance, and making it ideal for retro gaming setups, or some cases even arcade machines. But I want to quickly point out that they also implemented the Raspberry Pi even in portable devices. So LCL made even a Game Boy Pi4 that was kind of a cool and big deal back then. And I can say back then because now with the oversaturation of devices, the Pi4 is kind of more like a fun novelty. But still, I think it's kind of cool that he even slept in a Raspberry Pi 4 inside of a handheld. And yeah, the overall idea itself is pretty cool. With the introduction of new Raspberry Pi models, we still have a lot of different models, and I can tell you, those are just great for emulation and you can buy them for not a lot of money. You can get yourself a Raspberry Pi 3, but I wanted to focus today on the Raspberry Pi 4. Because the Raspberry Pi 4, in this way we can really play some cool things. Yeah, okay, don't mind these controllers. Yeah, there was a kit I actually purchased some time ago, and this comes with the NES kit from RetroFlag. So this is pre-assembled, but you can get yourself like a Raspberry Pi 4 and just slap it inside of a different case if you want to. But I think this is just like a really fun, cool novelty, and it came complete with everything you're going to be needing in combination with, of course, the power supply. The Raspberry Pi 4 is absolutely a really cool, capable device that can play absolutely a crazy amount of games, and I think it's even a little bit better than the X3 version. So with this we're going to be having a little bit awesome performance, and if you get yourself a very nice Pi case, we can actually just have like a little bit more nostalgia feel to it than your typical game box from AliExpress. It runs perfectly on these things, of course, like some MAME and Neo Geo, but still I just want to implement it in the video to show you how it actually works. Some limitations, but with the freaking like Pi4 we do have the option to play so many more MAME games. Take consideration, Killer Instinct doesn't run on this, so that's something we're not going to try out. Let's try a little bit of GBA, and I must say, like, nowadays we do have so many options to play this on actually like all kinds of different kind of hardware. Besides, like, I'm not even counting like the cheap devices we've reviewed, because the cheap devices mostly like mess everything up when it comes to GBA. Yeah, so when it comes to N64, there we do have like still some struggles here and there. Unfortunate that everything works perfectly. Depending on what kind of image emulator you're running, if it's up to date, still I think the N64 it's not running perfectly on the Raspberry Pi. But don't get me wrong, right, there's so much that we can actually play on this. So to get into the GoldenEye 007, just to show you how the performance in general is. It's way better than the Raspberry Pi 3, but it's not there yet. So next up, let's take a closer look at some Dreamcast and Dead Alive 2. Let's see how far we can push it. I did notice with the intro, there's some minor hiccups, nothing to worry about, but the overall gameplay is pretty damn good. Next up, let's play a little bit of one of my favorite games of the Atomic Wave. And with this game, what I've noticed, like the chip boxes don't really run great with this, but they did manage to get it optimized for the Raspberry Pi 4. Absolutely great. One of those fun systems to enjoy for many hours. Let's get in a different part with more enemies, so you can see if he's going to be hicking up or stuttering. Alright, so next up, let's try one of my favorite Sega Naomi games to play. A lot of fun to play with the Sega Dreamcast or Naomi systems. The Power Stone number 2. Such a cool game, and it actually runs pretty damn good on the Raspberry Pi number 4 now. Another system I just wanted to try out is the PlayStation Portable. With the Raspberry Pi 4, this is not like the ultimate beast when it comes to PlayStation Portable emulation, but we do have like a lot of great things that we can play on some. It's a little bit of tweaking sometimes, but also sometimes you can just play them with native resolution, depending of course on what kind of game. But most games, like one of my favorite ones, Wiper Pure, is very well playable. Where new models of the Pi will be released throughout the future, I think the Pi 4 is still a capable chip, of course depending what you want to play. The overall performance is better than the X3 game box, but now if you're going to be, let's say, grabbing a complete kit with the Pi 4, like this I'm having over here, or something you're going to be building yourself, yeah, this can be still a very cool way to play emulation on this very cool tiny board. However, I just wanted to implement it in this video because I think it's a very cool way to play. But you think you've seen it all, they also made a plug-and-play portable arcade machine with the Raspberry Pi 4 on the inside, meaning that we do have like the power of the Pi 4 with the overall emulators, and this way we can just play on the go, comes with a display, and yeah, the overall performance was of course pretty good. And overall quite interesting to see what is going on the inside, and you can see they did a lot of effort to squeezing this tiny Pi in the inside. The unfortunate part is that we didn't have like overall great performance when it comes to the cooling, and the reason why I'm not a big fan of like these tiny cooling elements, because it will maybe have the option that we do have like a little bit of a thermal throttle, and it will not give you the full potential of the Raspberry Pi 4, but so far I've been testing it out, everything seems to be running just fine, and I think it was kind of a cool idea to just have a Pi 4 inside a portable device, and this makes it even more easier to bring with you and to play thousands of different retro games. But if you don't want to have like a fancy NES Pi case or an arcade, there was like these plug and play kits that they were actually like selling, complete with everything in the inside, just a basic case. We did have active cooling. It was not like the most best cooling method out there because I love these massive cooling blocks. But yeah, that was like a plug and play solution. I didn't really understand when they went for these Super NES fake horrible controllers, but it doesn't matter because you can plug in anyway like all kinds of X input, Xbox controller related devices. But the point is, like, you have this plug and play solution with the Pi 4. You can make it yourself, you can get yourself all of the separate parts, but it was like an overall great way to play. And I also wanted to do a quick overview of a couple of emulators to showcase what is actually going on with this. So what I like about the Raspberry Pi in general, that we have a lot of options to play some old school retro games. And maybe a lot of you are already knowing this. But when you're comparing this with the Pandora's Box, you have so many more options. But with Pandora's Box is super easy, plug and play, and that's also when you're going to do some modding in arcade one up, it's easy to do. But with the Raspberry Pi 4, you have so much more options, but you need to have some knowledge. So like ETA Prime makes a lot of these tutorials, how you need to set up things like updating controllers, you name it. He makes all such kind of tutorials. I'd say if you want more, check out this channel by the way. But okay, so let's take a close look at some emulation. How is it even all working on the Raspberry Pi 4. Buff Blue is a game that doesn't run perfectly on the Super Console X and has a lot of issues on many Pandora's boxes. By the way, it is not even supported by many Pandora's boxes. But if you're really like into this Atomic Wave stuff, that's what I like about the Raspberry Pi. It has so much potential, especially the number 4. But when it comes to this 8-bit, 16-bit stuff, Atari's, Commodore 64, they all run fine. And what I find always very interesting, when it comes to, let's say, the Chinese are knocking off like Super NES, Sega Mega Drive versions, the sound is always messed up. But with a Raspberry Pi 4, you don't have any issues. But I need to point out that the frame skipping was set to 1, and that's the reason why it did run way better than most Pandora's boxes. But I just wanted to point it out. I just want to go straight into PlayStation Portable, and the reason why is because PlayStation Portable is most Pandora's boxes have just a big issue with it. But it seems to be that most of the games are playable. It depends also what kind of game. Should be because some games are better supported with the emulator you're using than the other one. Surprisingly, Wipeout does run very well on this device. And I must say, it's a big improvement over Raspberry Pi number 3. I think most Pandora's boxes doesn't even run this game. Or cheap Android boxes. And of course I fly right up in the mines. But I had a shield and I didn't use it. Rainford! Okay, so next up, for arcade made Mortal Kombat 2. Normally I was testing Mortal Kombat 1, but when I have the chance I always wanted to test out Mortal Kombat 2 or 3. It's quite interesting with the Pi. Nowadays we're going to get the Redeem emulator as a backend. And what I like about it, the Redeem is a super good emulator to play some, of course, Sega Dreamcast games. It has a great compatibility and a lot of games are running very good in combination with the Pi4 mainboard. So they put this Pi in an arcade or a portable arcade. Then also we have like this cool NES Pi case and different other ones, or just this simplistic one. I just wanted to give you a quick overview for what is actually going on with this. But there was one particular product I've reviewed a long time ago that was even more interesting, and that was like a full-size machine. Yep, they had like a full-size machine within Raspberry Pi 4 built in. But it is also a great example, like if you're going to be optimizing the Raspberry Pi, spending countless hours in, this is absolutely an insane way to play. So there was like a company, Dragonfly, even made a Raspberry Pi arcade machine, and this thing had some insane overall performance, where like the normal Pi devices were great, but this thing even had the option to play with trackball and all kinds of cool features. And the overall performance was even better than with the other devices I've checked out, because the image was completely custom made and built up from the ground up. And this is a beautiful example like what you can do with a Pi 4 if you're spending more than enough time with it. I understand you also have the Marvelous Capcom theme, but the point is that this is a great example of what you can do with it. So he actually went for the Pi 4 with the simple reason of the customizability of the software itself, and yeah, also the performance. I understand he's using now newer models out there, but when it comes to the Pi 5, but still I just wanted to check out and give you a quick overview, but also in testing, because when I was actually testing this arcade machine, I must say that I was flabbergasted of the overall performance and how much and how far we can push it. And now with getting the Pi 4 really cheap, you can build yourself an arcade or just use it like a game system. The N64 on the Pi 4 is not like super great, but he did optimize it and most of the games are running pretty good. But Citizen also supports with the right software light gun games, and I think that is pretty cool. So not only, let's say, your typical controller or arcade button bashing, let's say, games, you do have the option for just a plug and play Citizen configuration. And yeah, there are all kinds of different ways to play, but I think when it comes to the compatibility and many games, thanks to the different emulators, we do have like an amazing overall library of them.
Klok er schieten af.
The conclusion is, doesn't matter how you're going to be using the Raspberry Pi 4, this thing is just amazing. If you just want to play some old school Atari Commodore 64, NES, 16-bit like Super Famicom or let's say the Genesis, or even PlayStation 1, Sega Dreamcast, this thing can play a lot. And even some N64 performance is so much better than your typical game box that we've seen from AliExpress. Nevertheless, this is a very cool piece of technology and you should not really underestimate this when it comes to performance. And then of course we have even light gun support with different kind of, let's say, possibilities. In this case I tested out Sinden. Thank you all for checking out this video. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments and it would be great to see you in the next video.